Anytime that it come correct, ain't playing at your best when you Hey everyone, why isn't this going? Come on. Where's this camera go? Come on. Come on. Thank you. Oh goodness. This is not what I'd hoped it would be, 'cause, good times. Come on. Come on, audio. What the? Okay. Turn that down, 'cause I want some audio here. I know this is not a good way to start the stream, but I'm going to deactivate and reactivate this camera here. There we go. Because I have it set to deactivate when not showing, but I'm using an old phone. You can't actually see it here, but I'm using an old phone. And the problem with that is that if you deactivate the camera, it logs off, or like it times out, or whatever. So yeah, as you can see, I have the knitting machine here in front of me. The upper half of me is kind of hovering in the corner here, but I want you guys to be able to see the machine as I'm working on it. This is a 1960 slash 1961 Knit-O-Mat from Lightco Incorporated, I believe. I have their sheet. I have their quick start direction sheet off to the side here. Oh, and there goes my ball of yarn. That's not what I wanted to happen. Division of Lightco Incorporated. You can see here, Knit-O-Mat. Division of Lightco Incorporated. So this is the Knit-O-Mat Deluxe 160. And it was actually my grandmother's. She ordered it in 1961, and I know it was 1961 because the shipping label on the box that it came in says that it was shipped on April 21st, 1961 for a whopping $2.62 from California to Massachusetts. And yeah, so I know that she purchased this in 1961, most likely by mail order rather than phone. I'm trying to think if they had a phone at the house they lived in 1961. They might not have. I'm pretty sure they did, but you never know. But I'm pretty sure it was mail order. So, right? But I figured I would do this today. I have to make blanks. I've already started it. I started one over the weekend. It's kind of hanging off the back here. I can tilt this just a little bit so you can see here, right? I'm using these just chip clips to weight down the piece of fabric. But this way you can see what I'm doing. That's why I've angled the camera the way I have. And tilted it the way I have so you can see what I'm doing here with these hooks. Speaking of, I'm doing this at 80 stitches wide, which means I'm 80 needles wide because the way this works is each stitch is on its own separate needle. Now, this is not a fancy schmancy machine. This is 100% mechanical. It is not electric. It is purely human powered, aka me powered. And yeah, I'm actually going to move OBS so that when I look up to check OBS, I'm looking at the camera because I just realized I was looking off to the side. And how about I put OBS in front of my face so that went, "Hi, Zoe." And of course, the cat's meowing at me because of course she is. Because she's a needy little kitty. Do you want to come up and say hi to the internet? Come on, Zoe. You can come under the green screen. Zoe. Zoe, come here. What? You can come up. Come on. Come on, there you go. Yeah, see? You're a needy little kitty. Yes, you're a needy girl. Oh, I was going to knit. I was going to use the knitting machine, This is not helpful. Zoe. Zoe, this is not helpful. No. No. I put a cushion on the desk for you. Why don't you go sit on your cushion? I don't think you're going to like me using the knitting machine. She likes to be in my lap when I'm sitting here at this desk, which maybe I should have shut the door to keep her out, but I was like, oh, I'm not winding. Maybe, but apparently not. Also, the background music is probably very quiet. I am trying to balance my audio right now. I think I'm a little loud, actually, so I'm going to turn me down. I was pushing the red with some of my plosive consonants, so that's a little bit better. Yeah, I'm not pushing the red anymore with my plosives. That's a term. I have a little bit too much linguistics knowledge. I should not be using plosive in a random rant to screen on a Twitch stream. But I'm sorry for the weird dual camera thing, but I figured y'all would like to see how this thing works. And me just talking to camera is not as interesting as how this thing goes. So let's see if we can't do a row here. So this is a built-in row counter here. Each of these hooks, now this is the tool that came with it. So it's got a point on this end. It's kind of hard to see. Point on this end. And it's got a crochet hook on this end. I have found this crochet hook is kind of crappy and not very good at all. So I haven't been using it. I've been using the pointy end if I have to do anything. I also have been using this really long just straight. To sometimes if I gotta flick a lot of these at once, it's just really easy to just do them all at once. Now, it took me about a week to figure this thing out. And it's definitely like not as fast as some other more modern knitting machines. Like I said, this thing is effectively 60 years old. Now, when I first got it, she's just going to sit here. And she's just going to insist on sitting here. So you're just going to have to deal with like a little kitty face occasionally somewhere. Like I said, it's purely mechanical. When I took it out of the box, my mom had left. My mom had been the last person to use this thing way back in the early 80s before I was born. And she'd left knitting on it. No, Zoe, you can't rub on that. No, that's not for you. That's not for kitties. That is not for Zoe. Trying to get my leg, like, comfortable under here. There we go. I'll use the little stool I have underneath the table that you guys can't see. And she left knitting on it. And it was so tight, like her cage was so tight that you actually couldn't move the slider. So this is the slider. And you can see how it moves these pushers out, right? And this is what pushes the stitch, which is on each individual needle here. You can see it a little better over here, right? These individual stitches are all pushed out by these pushers over the strand I'm going to lay across all of these needles to make the next row. And that is how this thing works. Like I said, it's purely mechanical. It has no automatic feeder, no nothing. I know more modern knitting machines have things like automatic feeders and have things like that in them, but we don't. This, I don't. My grandmother, like I said, my grandmother bought this in 1961 before features like that were available to the home audience, right? I mean, they were available in factories because that's how they make jersey knit fabric, is these big, huge knitting machines that have the automatic feeders and the automatic slide and all that stuff, right? Those are fully automatic. This has none of that because this is for the home market. More modern home market machines do have that. You can get ones that have a feeder. You can put the cone like on something that's attached to the slider and just feeds as it goes. This has none of that. And because our blanks are specific size, they're equivalent to one skein. I have wound off from the cone, which I actually have the cone. I can show you the cone. Give me one sec here. It's a reach. So we get cones like this in 2.5 kilo. 2.5 kilo? I think they're 2.5 kilo. Or 5 pound. They're 2,500 yards. We get cones like this, much thicker. Obviously, this has been a lot of wound off of this. We get cones like this from the mill. And Becca, my boss, who runs and owns 100 Ravens, is trying to contract with someone to make blanks for us on the regular. But unfortunately, y'all keep buying gradient cakes when we don't have them, or we don't have them in stock. And so we allow you guys to back order because they're repeatable colorways, and we do that. But at the same time, I realized that like the corner of my desk here is like terrible, so I'm just gonna cut that out of. No, not that. You need to press Alt, not Shift. There we go. I'm just cutting out the corner of my desk here that's kind of like half disappearing due to the green screen effect I have on. There we go. Now it's not like flickering in the thing. Could you not, please? Thank you, stupid green screen. Come on. The green screen is not really a proper green screen. It's a piece of green fabric I got at Walmart for very, very cheap that I then sewed to another piece of not even the same color green fabric that I also got at Walmart for very, very cheap. And then it is then Velcroed to my ceiling, and there she goes. Okay, cool. That's good. Because her being in my lap is not helping. So, yeah, this does not have the features of modern machines. I have wound off one gradient cake's worth of yarn from the cone to work with so that I know that this is the correct number of yardage. Now, I've done this by weight because I didn't want to do this by wraps on the machine on the winder or anything, because then I have to move all of the arms on the winder from where they are for minis. And, well, yeah, that's no fun. I'd rather have it stay set. I'd rather have that mechanical winder stay set to our minis so that the next time I have to do minis, I don't have to readjust it or anything. So I wound off a 2. I need a third, but for now, I'm just going to do the 2. And I started one blank yesterday, like I said, as you can see here. I am 34 rows in. You can actually read the row counter here on the screen, 34 rows. Now, I'm trying to keep this very, very loose. So I have the tension on this, because there is a way to adjust the tension on here. It's not in focus. If I tap, no, it's autofocus. I need to do, can I autofocus over here, please? Manual, can I tap over here, please, and get it to focus? Okay, that's kind of in focus now. Kind of. I'm sorry. This is a new setup I'm trying. And we're just trying it. We are just trying this. I'm sorry it's jiggly. My phone, you can see just the corner of it, just right here. This phone is on a twisty, bendy arm, so it's not the most stable. I'm sorry about that. But so this knob here tightens and loosens, and this knob here adjusts the tension this way and that way. It's basically how far these come out is the tension. And I want it to be as loose as possible because we're going to be dyeing this, and then it's going to get unknit. So this is undyed yarn from the mill that we are then going to be dyeing as a gradient, and then we will be caking it into a yarn cake and sending it off to the customer. So when I say put it into a cake, I mean something like this, right? So we would make a yarn cake. So this will get dyed as a strip of fabric. Is essentially like a scarf, a fancy scarf, or not a fancy scarf. And then we will make a cake out of it. Oh my god, there's hair on everything because stuff has been in my house for way too long. But yeah, so, and I have on screen also right here, because it's backwards. It's over here, right up here. Our show colorway for Fiber World, which we still have up on our website. So as of right now, today is the 28th of July. We're going to leave it up to the end of the month. Maybe a few weeks more, because Fiber World happened very late in July. It started on the 21st, ran to the 25th. So we'll probably leave it up for the first couple of weeks of August, just to, encoding overloaded. Am I dropping frames? I am not dropping frames, but OBS gave me an encoder overloaded message. Don't know what's going on there. Seems okay. I have not dropped any frames whatsoever today, so I am not complaining about that. My bitrate has been good. My FPS has been good. I'm just checking my stats. I think we're good. You know, I'm just going to open Twitch Inspector real quick. I have my mouse, like, up. It's behind my body on the screen. Yes, log in with Twitch. Thank you, Twitch. Can I please? I thought I was already logged in. Please. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it seems like we're good. My bitrate's been good. No issues there. So I think my computer's just... I haven't streamed in a while, and so that's a thing. Who has tagged me in there? Good luck. Ah, somebody's just saying, I have a package supposed to be coming today, or, well, supposed to be coming on Monday, but now the post office says that there's no delivery date for it, so, you know, that's the thing. Anyways, I'm going to get started on this. I need to make sure that all of the little hooks are open, because each of these needles here is a hook that closes once I put the yarn in it to do the thing. So I'm just making sure each of these is open, and these are not over here. So I'm just going to flick these open. I'm sorry that my left hand is going to be in the way a lot, but I'm left-handed. And on my left was the only really good place that I could put this camera right now. I might try it on the right for the next time, but right now on the left was where I could get it with the cord and the plug, because this is an old phone. I'm using an old phone over here that has a shot battery. It is no longer like my actual, like, you know, phone. But the camera still works, and the camera actually on this old phone is better than the camera on my second webcam. The one I'm using as my face cam is my good webcam, but my old webcam I've been using is like the hand cam and stuff, but that's not great. So I'm going to try this phone, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to get started here and do the first row. I tend to be quiet and concentrate while I'm actually setting this up, or while I actually do the thing. So you're supposed to lay it across, and then you pull the fabric forward to close all the little hooks. I don't know how well you can see that. Actually, you can see that pretty well, actually. Hey, look at that. So then I always make sure, because this is my third blank I've done on these machines, on this machine now, I always make sure I have plenty of extra, like just loose here in my lap, right? Because this strand here is going to pull. There's going to be so much uptake in here. It's only like 2 or 3 times the width of the thing. So I just need plenty of slack, essentially, for this to work. I found that out the hard way. Once I get like a few more inches on this, I can actually take the clips off and it'll be fine. But right now, like for the first like 50 or so rows, you really need like chip clips to hold the weight down, because otherwise it just doesn't. I'm trying to get my knees out of the way here. Now you can see kind of under my desk, but you can't really, but whatever, you can see what's going on, and that's the important bit. Now one of these actually flipped open, so I'm going to make sure it's closed. Again, I'm going to check everything along the way. Now, I'm going to do a row. There we go. So I didn't need as much slack as I pulled out, but I run on a better safe than sorry kind of thought process here. And so now we have done 35 rows. And then you just repeat this, right? And like it would be much, much quicker if I had an automatic feeder, if the slide was powered, if, you know, all this other stuff. But we have decided that as a stopgap measure, basically, of we need blanks, we don't have blanks, I have this machine and now know how to use it, that it is best if I just make them in the interim, just the few we need here or there. Like I said, there's 3 right now I need to make. I've already wound off 2 skeins worth of yarn, and I'll wind off the 3rd because there should be enough left on that cone. Actually, I can weigh it here. I have the scale at my desk here. Let's see how much is left on this cone. Come on. Yeah, okay, it broke the scale. There's enough weight. When I didn't break the scale, it's too much weight for that little scale because I have a little 100-gram scale here, and these are supposed to be 100-gram balls. So I just, you know, wound off, and when I got to a smidge over 100, because they usually come from the mill, when we used to buy the blanks from the mill, they would come a little heavy. And when I say a little heavy, I mean it's labeled as a 100-gram skein, and we would get blanks that were 102, 103, 104, 105 grams, somewhere in that range, 102 to 105 grams. So as when I was hand winding off of the cone and using my little scale, I basically just went until I hit somewhere in that range, just hand winding, between 102 and 105, and I knew that would be the right yardage because this is the same yarn. By the way, this base is our Patos base. It is what all of our gradient cakes are currently out of because we discontinued our other gradient base because it was having problems, and it was having some pretty bad problems. And so we stopped using Mayari. So Mayari has, in fact, been discontinued out of our list of bases. So right now, our only base that we do the gradient cakes on is Patos. And so that is what I am doing right now. We got cones of Patos from the mill, and that is what I'm using right now to make this cake. So honestly don't know if anybody's watching. It says I have 2 viewers, but I am counted as a viewer myself, as well as Stream Elements, who is the chatbot. So not actually sure there is anyone here watching me right now. I have a feeling there isn't. It's a very odd time on a Tuesday morning. I knew this was like a completely rando, not a time when anyone was going to actually like probably going to want to watch me, but you know, that's a thing. And I haven't streamed on my personal Twitch in ages. I'm actually thinking about going back to putting up YouTube videos because I kind of miss that kind of creative thing. By the way, this will be on YouTube after the fact. If you're watching this on YouTube, hi, come check us out on Twitch. I stream occasionally, usually kind of randomness like this or Winding Minis, usually as like an AMA about AHR or yarn or something like that. Yeah, it's very informal when I do stuff like this. My personal streaming is I do games like Okami and stuff like that. I like JRPGs, but I'm working right now, and so I'm not on my personal one. I'm on the business one. I'm not wearing my AHR shirt, but, you know, this is my mood right now, is what my shirt says. So, you know, worse than 2020 would not recommend. Yeah, 2021 has been a worse year for me on a lot of levels, but that is not business talk, and so I'm not going to get into it. But mood is basically essentially my shirt right now. Mood. Okay, I've dropped a few frames, but not too bad. I do have a wired connection here to my internet, so that's a good thing. Our router actually died last week, and I had to get Comcast in like the next day because we were doing Fiber World, and I was running our booth. I was running the 100 Ravens booth for Fiber World from my house because my boss's house could not handle that many simultaneous Zoom connections and such. And so on Tuesday last week, I called Comcast like, hey, I've been having trouble since Sunday because it's just dropping connections. My computer is no longer recognizing the Ethernet cord that I've plugged into it that's run from the router. Like, the Wi-Fi is super, super spotty. Like, what is going on? And they're like, oh, well, you know, you can always go to a coffee shop. And I'm like, no. It doesn't work like that. It's like, I am doing a virtual conference where I'll be talking to customers. I cannot do that in a coffee shop. And they were like, oh. I'm like, yeah, I cannot shop with customers in a coffee shop where anyone can overhear because, you know, I care about y'all's personal information. not that anybody was giving me their credit card info over Zoom at FiberWorld, but, it's the principle of the matter is I'm going to be speaking with customers. And doing that in a public environment like a coffee shop, especially like on their Wi-Fi, is not really a good thing to do. So they were like, well, we can get somebody out there between 8 and 10 tomorrow morning. And I went, yes, please. And it turns out that it was, in fact, the equipment. It was not our connection. The tech came out. I asked him, it's like, hey, are you okay with cats? Because I have one. Not Zoe, but Confetti, our other cat, is very friendly and likes people. And so I'm like, you might get sniffed. I hope you're okay with cats. And the guy was like, yeah. I'm like, good, because you're probably going to get sniffed. And so basically, he came in, he checked our signal. Signal was good. He checked our modem / router / gateway, whatever fancy schmancy name for it. It's a modem that puts out. It's a combined modem router. They call it a gateway, but it's a combined modem router, right? Because it not only is the physical access point to the internet, it is also putting out the Wi-Fi signal. So it's both a modem and a router. Comcast calls it a gateway, which I think is like the stupidest name because it does not actually say what the darn thing does. And I like stuff to be I like stuff to be what it says on the tin, right? I feel like things should be named what they are. So it's a modem / router. It's a combo device, and it had effectively crapped itself. And the good thing is that Comcast techs carry spares in their trucks. So he simply went out to the truck, got a new one, brought it in, and replaced it, transferred all of our info for the Wi-Fi so that I didn't need to get reset up. I tested it with my computer before he left, and we were good to go. So, sometimes I don't like calling customer support, but like when I've exhausted every option and I literally have to use mobile data to get on the help chat with Comcast, when I literally have to hotspot my phone in my own house to contact help support, right? Like, that's a problem. So I'm glad I did, and we now have a new modem, and it's working beautifully. As you can tell, because I have only dropped 160 frames in the entire half hour I have been live, which is 0.3% of this stream. And I am streaming in full 1080p, so, that means that, hey, the new equipment is working, woohoo! Because that's a thing. So, as you can see here, I am just moving along with this. I am already on row 47. I'm just kind of rambling to myself here. I realize I do not have view, docs, Twitch stats. Thank you. OBS, please. Can I have Twitch stats? Hello? OBS. Can I have Twitch stats, please? Where is Twitch stats? Where is it? I asked for it. Where is it? Really, OBS? Why can I not see this? Why? Why? Really, OBS? Really? Twitch stats. Where are you? Because I am not seeing you. I'm seeing stats, but I'm not seeing Twitch stats. And there's a difference between stats and Twitch stats. There really is. Twitch activity feed? Okay, that opened over there. I'll drop that there. That's fine. Yeah, we haven't had any activity on our Twitch in a long time because it's been a hot minute since... There it is! Ha ha ha. Found it. Cool. Found the Twitch stats. It popped up on the other screen, like on top of something that was also black, and so it was really hard to see. But now I have it. And I'm sorry, I'm talking with my hands, and they're kind of flashing in the bottom of the screen. I am sorry. I apologize for that. I am Italian. This is a thing that, like, just... I talk with my hands. I'm sorry, y'all. Talk with my hands. It's a thing. Like, I've whacked my husband in bed, in the face, talking with my hands, laying there, because I talk with my hands. Whoopsies. Yeah, you can see how there's uptake and I didn't have enough slack. Yeah, that's a thing. But by pausing there, actually, you can see how it pushes the strands. But I'm getting faster at this as I go, because, like, I've now had practice. This is the third blank I've done on this knitting machine. And honestly, like, I didn't even remember my grandmother had this for a while. And then I was talking to Becca about, like, the fact that we need blanks, and she hadn't heard back from the person for a while. Who we were trying to contract with to do it, etc. And I was like, I think my grandmother had a knitting machine. So my mom had mentioned something about it when my grandmother had moved back in 2014. So I texted my mom and I was like, hey, do you still have grandma's knitting machine? Mom's like, probably. I don't think I got rid of it. She's like, if I have it, it's in my dining room because all of the stuff from Grandma's house in Billerica, where she used to live before she moved into my uncle's house, is in my mom's dining room. And what do you know? I stopped by my mom's house on my way home from work that day, and half an hour later, I left with this machine in the box. It actually still has the, like, plastic dust cover that it came with that has, like, those terrible, what are they? The ruffles in the plastic. It's very 60s. It's very, like, late 50s, early 60s. Like, it is, I mean, look at this thing, right? I mean, this thing is, I mean, I'll move this up so you can kind of see the plaque on it. Wait, I'll just make myself smaller. See? I mean, it's red and chrome with a brass plate, and, like, it's just, the styling is very, what I would say, late 50s, early 60s on this thing. And my husband thought that these different colored hooks were actually replacements, but they're actually counters. So these bronze ones, which I know it's a little hard to see in this camera because of I have a light shining on it so I can see what I'm doing, but there will be, from starting at the far end here, there's one brass colored hook, then 8 silver hooks, then 2 brass colored hooks, then 8 silver hooks, then 2 brass colored hooks, then 8 silver hooks. Basically, it's a way to count every 10. So from one brass hook to one brass hook is 10. So you can go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, all the way across, right? And it makes it very easy for me to replicate the blank that, like, we get from the mill, because I just sat there and I counted the stitches across on one of the mill blanks, and that's 80 stitches. So it's always best to start in the middle with something like this and go out. So I did 20, 40, 60, 80 stitches wide, and boom, there we go. So that's what I am doing. And yeah, this is just, you know, and it's, you know, once you get into the groove of it, it's pretty good. Like I said, I'm trying to keep this very, very loose, so I try to have slack on my lap, and a couple of times here I haven't had the slack, so I really should. I'm not pulling out slack because I'm talking, but really I should be, you know, it helps if I do not tangle and I do not let the ball roll, like, down my thighs. Actually, putting my legs up is actually probably better, because that means that my legs will be more level. I'm actually gonna, if I do this, and I'm not doing this just to be weird. I'm doing this because, hey, if I put the ball here in my lap and I have my leg bent, my leg will keep the ball in my lap and it won't roll off the chair. So basically, my leg is now bent so that the ball of yarn does not roll off the chair, because that is a thing. I realized that when I started this, I had not muted the mic on my mouse, so you probably heard, like, typing and stuff like that, and I'm sorry for that, but, you know. I need to respond to a message. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes, you know, you just need to do it. But yeah. Okay, back to this. But yeah, I now am preventing the ball from falling off my lap, which is a very good thing. So, and I have this is just royalty-free music, because having, like, actual music play in the background is just get banned bait, is just bait for, like, you know, getting banned as a streamer, and I really don't want that to happen. So, you know. And I'm just kind of hovering up over the top here. But I actually have a bin of yarn, like, under the desk, like, down there. Where's the camera? There. Like, down there. I have a bin of yarn from the weekend because I was showing stuff off to customers in the booth. And, yeah. Have lots and lots of examples. I actually have, like, the actual skeins of Grace Hopper on the table here, but stuff keeps getting moved around. I was very tired after Fiber World, because not only was I working for 100 Ravens, I also worked for Fiber World, because Becca, who owns 100 Ravens, also helps run Fiber World. And so I got roped into helping out as well with that show. And so, you know, it was just a very, very busy weekend. So I had a rather spectacular, like, I woke up groggy Monday and Tuesday, just because shows are a lot of work. Like, I don't think attendees realize, like, I know it's tiring for some attendees to go to shows, it's even in-person shows, but those of us who are working the shows, it's a lot more exhausting than you would think. You're like, oh, you just get to stand there and talk to people all day. But it's not just that. It's getting there, you know, the day before the show starts. It's setting up your booth. It's then resetting your booth each morning before they let the attendees in. Then it is being on and talking to people all day, essentially. And for people like me who are introverts at heart, it's essentially an act. Like, you'll see that, like, people who do, like, customer service, like, they're completely different, like, when they're at work than when they're at home. And I'm more comfortable in a format like this than, say, standing in an arena somewhere talking to random people. But I do it because I love talking to people about our yarn. And I love talking to people about color and dyeing and what projects they're going to work on and all of that stuff. And, you know, I just realized that I could also tag this as crochet, because you can crochet with our cakes, right? So I'm using a knitting machine right now, but the gradient cakes I'm making, these gradient cakes, we don't care who you are. If you knit, if you crochet, we don't care. If you want a gradient cake to do a project with, you can weave with it. Like, if you just want a gradient cake, we're cool. You know, we will happily sell the yarn to whoever, as long as you're going to have fun with it and enjoy it. Like, go for it, you know? You know, if you want to do macrame, if you want to do embroidery, if you want to, because you can embroider with yarn, fun fact. You can do very thick embroidery with yarn, but you can embroider with yarn, fun fact. And it just, yeah, you know, I can tag this with crocheting. I am not personally crocheting, but if you are a crocheter, you can, in fact, you know, do this. Come on. Oh, that would be right. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. Okay. There we go. So what happened on this row? This row is going to be a little tight because occasionally this yarn splits because it's been twisted from being balled up, and it gets caught on the hook. And I noticed it got caught, and that's why I paused across the row, and I fixed it over here because it had gotten caught. And so by making sure it wasn't caught anymore, I could then continue pushing the slide across the row. Now, one thing just for me personally with this machine that I would love to figure out how to do, because the machine did come with the instructions for this, you can apparently make socks with this. Now, if you're not familiar, for many, many centuries, and millennia in fact, socks were knit flat. Modern circular needles, like, you know, the metal corded modern circular needles, like this Chowgo I have on my desk here, did not exist until like the mid 20th century. We didn't have the technology, the manufacturing to do cords like this until the mid 20th century. And so for literally millennia, because there is evidence of knit fabric all the way back to tombs in ancient Egypt, socks were knit flat. Now, in the medieval times, it would often be a woven piece of fabric that would have been then cut and gusseted and shaped and sewn to the foot. But you can also do socks flat. And this machine came with a book about doing socks flat. And I'm very curious about how it works, and I would probably going to try it at some point because I think it would be super fun and super interesting, because I have only ever hand knit socks in the round. And this is a version of hand knitting in some ways, because this is not, it's using a machine, but it's not, this is not mass produced. This is definitely like, I am sitting here like occasionally struggle bussing it, dumpster fire. Like, to start this blank, I had to rip it out and try again twice to get it started on yesterday. So, you know, that's the thing. There's definitely some, like, it's not a happy camper sometimes kind of elements to it. Also, I don't have to put the slide all the way back. Like, I could stop the slide, like, here, right? Because this does not go all the way across the machine. But the thunk of it hitting the stop at the end is actually, to me, really satisfying. So I feel like y'all should maybe, like, enjoy that a little bit. So actually, what I can do is I'm going to unhide all so I can find the... Where is the Droid OBS cam? There it is, Droid OBS cam. There you are. So I'm going to unmute that, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm going to deactivate it for just a sec. I'm going to enable audio, and I'm going to reactivate. There we go. So now you're getting... I do need to mute it while I'm talking, though, because you'll get double audio otherwise, but I'm going to enable this, and then I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to run the slide across so you guys can hear what it sounds like. Just gonna make sure I have enough slack here before I do it. All right, let's see how this sounds to y'all. Right, you hear that? Yeah, it does a very satisfying, like, thunk at the end. And so even though I don't need to do it all the way across, I could stop it like here or stop it here. I don't need to go all the way. It's very satisfying to go all the way across. The other thing is that when I got this and I took it out of the box and stuff, the slide, even after I took off the yarn that my mom had left on it, and I was trying with whoopsies, with some crappy, like, you know, Michael's acrylic, basically, just to see how this thing worked, it was sticky in a couple of spots. Like it was, the slide had some points of resistance to it as I moved it across. And that you don't want. You want it to be a very smooth action. And of course, the bottle of oil that had come with the machine has long since dried up. Because like I said, it's 60 years old. Or maybe 61, maybe 62. It doesn't say what year it was manufactured. It was made in Japan. And it's production number 806. So we know they made at least 805 others of these. However, when I searched for Lightco Incorporated Knit-O-Mat, right, I got three singular results on Google. Not even a full page. This machine apparently is very rare. Apparently not a lot of them survived to 2021 or 2020 or even the 21st century, because the only one I found that had a device that actually looked like the one I am in possession of was a blog post from like 2013. And I could find stuff for the 150 and for the 180, but the 160, which is the model number this one is, was basically impossible to find on the internet, which is really surprising, given the fact that there's a lot of stuff you can find on the internet these days if you know where to look or know how to look. And I like to think my Google Foo is fairly good, but apparently it's not. And yeah, but anyways, I'm thinking of, you know, going back and maybe doing my YouTube channel a little bit. This, like I was saying earlier, will be uploaded to our YouTube. I just realized I've been live for like 45 minutes already, because like, holy crap, but you know, is what it is. Oh, I can go back to chat. Don't need to stream information anymore. Back to chat. But I'm just going to kind of just, you know, try to motor ahead here a little bit. I've gone down a cos-tubing rabbit hole on YouTube, and that's been fun. Some very funny videos. I've been watching Abby Cox, and I keep hitting this because it's like right here, like right where I'm going to smack it with my hand. I need to be more like aware that it's like right there next to me, because you know that's a thing. You can probably hear the slide on this mic too, but I wanted to turn on that mic just so that like you got a good section of audio on that. It's not as like ASMR oddly satisfying as the spinny of the words. Wow, as the mechanical winder when I'm doing the minis, but you know, it's fun. Wow, Twitch stats. Why are you not updating on my thing? Refresh. That was, wow, there was like no, it like hadn't refreshed in like 10 minutes in OBS. I'm just like, really? Come on, OBS. Fun fact, the Droid cam I'm using here, I did pay for the Pro version so I could get the 1080p video out of it instead of like 640, because I like having higher quality video options. It was like $8, so like whatever, it was $8. And it's a permanent license, right? Like I won't have to pay for it again. But worth it to get 1080, 1920 by 1080 out of my phone over Wi-Fi to my computer. You know, which is nice. And it's not affecting my upload stream or upload quality to Twitch at all, because it's over intranet, not internet. So, you know, it's not affecting my stream at all. I have little wispies of hair that keep like escaping from behind the headset and keep like irritating the side of my face. That's why I keep doing this. I'm sorry about that, but you know, keeping it real here. Also, full disclosure, I didn't feel like standing today to do minis. I don't have any minis here to wind. There are minis that need to be wound at my boss's house, but I don't have them here at my house, and I just didn't feel like standing. I have brain power today, but not a ton of brain power. Hey, I got some more viewers. Thank you for stopping by. I am making a yarn blank. That wasn't obvious by the title. But yeah. Here. Got a few people here. Thank you for coming by and saying hi. I am using this knitting machine to make a yarn blank if it would actually behave and not... No, I need that hook. No, not that one. Thank you. Oh my goodness. It's like the hooks need to be open. Okay, thanks. But yeah. Fiber World, show colorways on the screen. Next to me on this side. Brain power is different than bar power. Yes! Yes, it is! And I just realized that chat is overlaying the camera, but that doesn't matter because it's overlaying the camera. But yes, brain power is very different than body power. Well, you would think I would have body power because the entire weekend was virtually online and I was sitting at the desk the entire time. But, you know, when you mentally get run down, you can also get physically run down. And also, like, 16-hour days are tiring, even if you're sitting at a desk running, like, a Zoom call and answering. By the way, everyone who actually does T1 help desk for a living, oh my god, I am so sorry. I was doing that over the weekend for Fiber World, and holy crap. Y'all, those of you that do it full-time as a day job, day in, day out, oh my god, you guys, you have my sympathies. I try to be nice to help desk people, but like, holy crap, having now been on the front lines, dear lord. But yes, I have brain power today, not body power. I think it's the weather too. It's very dreary and rainy and cloudy and kind of gross here, so I also have my tea. Fun mug, by the way. I know it's so I don't kill people. It's a true statement. Or, well, semi-true statement. I'm going to adjust the temperature on my warming pad there. That's from Poly Studios. They are another very cool vendor out in the world that does fiber-related stuff. If I remember correctly, they might be the ones that have the One Ring inscription yarn bowl, but don't quote me on that. I could be misremembering. Yes, Poly Studios. They are fun. That is where that mug is from. It actually has a to-go lid I can put on it. Yes, they do. They do. I should link them. Shoot. Twitch. I follow them on my personal Twitch, so I am just gonna find them real quick because I follow them on my personal Twitch, and I have that open in the other browser. Show more. Where are they? I have them here somewhere. Haha, found them! They are at Play in the Mud. Yes, but I was going to put a hyperlink because as the owner of this, I can put the hyperlink. So there is the hyperlink if you would like to go see Play in the Mud, aka Poly Studios. Thank you for that, Purple Daisy 977. Yes, that is their name, but I was trying to get the clickable link URL. Yeah, unfortunately, I've had issues actually with people coming in and link spamming in this chat while I've been live as 100 Ravens, and so I've turned off link sharing for anyone that isn't the channel owner or a mod, simply for safety's sake, because I have had bots in chat going a little bonkers. So, to prevent that, y'all aren't allowed. I'm sorry. I know it's not fun, but it just prevents link spam, and it just helps with, you know, the bots and stuff. But yes, Poly Studios is fun. They have some fun stuff. I want like 10 more of their mugs because I am their nerdy nerd, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings geek that I am, and yeah. Or I'll say Tolkien geek, not Lord of the Rings, because I like I've actually read the Silmarillion more than once because I am that person. So, you know, I'll just say Tolkien nerd. Yep, I didn't have enough slack on that one. Had to gently pull out from the ball to get across that row. There we go, pull out some more slack. Bet you $10 at some point the cat will come back and be like, I need your lap again. I'll be like, Zoe, you're in the way. Because it's very hard to do this with the cat in my lap. But, yes. We still have our fiber. I keep pointing to the wrong side of me because from my point of view, because OBS is reversed for me, right? It's not a mirror, it's reversed. So, on this side of me, you can see our Fiber World show colorway, which was named after Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper made it to the rank of Rear Admiral in the Navy. She is effectively one of the mothers of computer programming as we know it. And we decided to honor her with our Fiber World show colorway by naming it after her. We wanted something to do with women and programming and computers, because a lot of the people that programmed Fiber World, like behind the scenes, a lot of the developers working on Fiber World are women or female presenting persons, and we wanted to acknowledge that and cheer those ladies on. And so we decided to name our show colorway after Grace Hopper. Like I said, one of the mothers of computer programming. Her research is what led to the creation of COBOL, if you're familiar with COBOL as a programming language, and then on to other things as well. But COBOL was one of the big ones she's known for, or at least laying the groundwork that led to COBOL is what she did. She didn't actually invent COBOL herself, but her research and her work laid the groundwork for them to be able to create COBOL. She actually, later, when she was retired in the late 70s, 80s, and up to the early 90s before she passed away, contracted with the Digital Equipment Corporation, also known as Digital or DEC, who my mom happened to work for throughout the 80s and 90s until DEC was bought by Compaq, and then Compaq was bought by HP, and then my mom was out of a job. But that's another story. And at DEC, she worked as a consultant to them for computer programming and language and all of that stuff. And my mom actually got to enjoy multiple talks from Grace Hopper herself while she was still alive in the late 80s, which is really super cool. Now, see, I have had an error here because I was not paying attention to what I was doing. Now, where is my stick? Where's my sticky stick? There's my stick. Okay. I had 3 stitches here, not actually do what they were supposed to. So now I have to put this through. Gonna pull. This is gonna be real fiddly here for a moment because I need to fix these stitches because they didn't actually get knit. They were effectively slipped, which is not what I wanted right now. So I'm gonna manually close these. And I don't need that one, but I need to effectively pull these stitches up and over and down. Now, I could use the crochet hook end of this tool for this, but I found that the crochet hook's a little big to get in there sometimes, right? Especially because this is a light fingering, because this is our pato space. This is light fingering. But right now the hook's actually working pretty good. So there we go. So now I have fixed that. So these stitches will unfortunately be a little tight come the next row, but that's not too bad. It won't affect our ability to dye them. So that's actually a good thing. Now I'm just going to adjust the tension of the stitches here a little bit so that they're not so tight, because there is some slack on each side I can pull to just make them a little more, make them just behave a little bit more, because there's a big stitch to the right, so I'm just kind of working some of that slack through to give them a bit of evenness. Now I'm going to push everything back, make sure all of these hooks are open, then we're going to do the next row. But I'll put that down over there this way. I know where it goes because it had like rolled like tight up flush against my keyboard and I couldn't see it. That's why I was like, where's my stick? Where's my thing? And I could have used a really long knitting needle for that I have, but the actual tool that came with the knitting machine is good for that. But if anybody has any questions about what I'm doing or like why I'm doing it or whatever, I was kind of ranting about that earlier, but yeah, we dye yarn blanks like this, which is basically just strips of pre-knitted fabric. We dye them to make our gradient cakes, which are, whoops, hello, as I drop it, which are these things. But we dye them like this so that we have a strip of it's like dyeing a strip of fabric. It is dyeing a strip of fabric because it is a knitted strip of fabric. So we dye the strip of fabric, and then, come on, adjust my volume, please, thank you. And then we dye it, and then we undo the cake, actually. And that is what we turn into we undo the blank and turn that into the gradient cake, is what I was trying to say. And I'm doing it like this instead of us having the person that we trying to contract with do it because we're in a bit of a rush because we got plenty of orders at Fiber World. But what I was saying about the Fiber World colorway is that it's still available. We don't take it down immediately after the show because maybe somebody was waiting for their paycheck to come through this week, or maybe somebody didn't have time to order over the weekend, or they had something going on, or whatever. We want everyone who wants a chance at our show colorways to be able to get them within what we think is a reasonable time frame. So what we've been doing for the past year is that we've been leaving them up for between 2 and 4 weeks after each show. And that way, anybody who wants it that maybe wasn't able to get it at the show itself can still order it. And so we do it that way because you know, we feel like people should be able to get it. We also don't limit the quantities we'll dye of it. People can order a sweater quantity of the colorway. You know, we will dye however much it is that customers want. Now, other vendors, and this is totally just preferences between vendors, will only dye so many. I'm going to name names, and I'm not saying this is bad, but this is a vendor, another vendor who I know does the limited quantities, right? Now, I'm not saying this is bad. This is just their market model. Miss Babs. Miss Babs only dyes a certain number of skeins because they only have so much time in a day, and they only dye a certain number of skeins of each base that they're going to do a show colorway on, and once it's gone, it's gone. And that is how they run their business, and that is 100% totally fine. I want to be clear on this. I am not judging them for doing that. It's a difference in philosophy. It's a difference in how they run their business versus how we run our business. They can do it. That's totally fine. No judging from me. But we're the other side of the coin. We want everyone to have a chance at the color. And so we will say we're at a physical show and we run out of a base someone wants. Say somebody wants a sweater quantity of our show colorway in worsted, but we only have 2 skeins left. We will, in fact, take a special order then and there at the show for that customer, and we will dye a lot for them of that sweater quantity of worsted on the show color and then mail it to them. We feel, and this is again just we're the other side of the coin, right? These are 2 different opinions, 2 sides of a coin. We feel that everyone should have a chance, and so that's what we do. Like I said, Miss Babs is not wrong. I am not ragging them. I am not talking crap. I love Miss Babs. In fact, I ordered the Miss Babs Fiber World 2021 colorway because I love it personally as myself because I am a sucker for blues because that is my favorite color ever. So personally, like, I love Babs yarn. They do great stuff. It's different from what we do, but it's great stuff. And it's just how they do their show colorways versus how we do our show colorways. Just to be clear, I am not ragging on Babs. I'm not. Just trying to make it clear that, like, I don't hate them. I have no problems with them. They're good people. They are really good people. They're actually one of the sponsors for Fiber World when they totally didn't have to be. And they are good people. They are very good people. They really are. Babs is good people. I mean, I bought their Maryland Sheep and Wool colorway. Just myself. I wanted their Maryland Sheep and Wool colorways. They had 2. They were very pretty, named after flowers. Both were flowers I like. It's a thing. And sorry, responding to a message again about work. But they sent me the wrong base. Just complete by accident. I ordered the one I thought I had. They put the wrong one in the bag. Mistakes happen. I emailed them. They were so good about it. They were so good about it. They really were. And honestly, like, yeah, cool. I am down with Babs. They are good people. They stand by their customers. They stand by their product. They sponsored Fiber World. I have nothing bad to say about Babs. I was just using them as an example of somebody who does things differently than we do. And that's it. You know? We don't dye speckles. They dye speckles. We don't dye self-striping. I know of other vendors and other companies that dye self-striping. It's just not the way we do it. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not the way we do it. But yeah, sorry to kind of go off on that side tangent there. But yeah, we're going to leave Grace Hopper up for a while. Becca was I kind of ran the colorway by some friends, and one of them came up with the Grace Hopper name. And Becca adored it, and so that's kind of how we got it. But we're just going to, leave it up for a little while, just so that people have a chance to get it, again, because that's what we do. So it'll be up for a few weeks at least if you want to get it. And we're doing it on all of our bases. So we're willing to dye it on pretty much any of our bases. So, Sorry if you hear some background noise. There is an air conditioner in this room, and it is just kicking on. Oh, and that one's not open. Cool. There we go. Having long nails is good sometimes, because then I can just flick open a little thingy here without having to worry about it. But there we go. There we go. Cool. I sent Kat the thing. Okay. Somebody wanted to be punked, Kel at Fiber World. Well, I say we. I knew it was happening. I wasn't part of the punking, but I knew it was happening. And Kel got punked with a Muppet. Or a puppet. To me, it looks like a Muppet, and I keep calling it a Muppet, even though it's not really a Muppet. It's a puppet. But anyways, when Kel was doing Sunday morning yoga. and it was fun. And somebody was asking for the video. I'm like, hey, I already put it in the Fiber World Dropbox. Just go get it. So you can see I'm up to 98. I've gone from 34 rows to 98 rows in the time I have been sitting here. But yeah, you know, if anybody has any questions about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, how I'm doing it, what this thing in front of me is, which, by the way, it's a knitting machine. It's a very old knitting machine. It is a 60-year-old knitting machine. Yeah. There we go. Cat's like, what's it saved as? I'm like, here you go. This is where it is. Enjoy. I need slack, because that's a good thing. Do. Here we go. You get into a groove with it after a while if I don't keep, like, interrupting myself with stuff, because, you know, I keep interrupting myself with stuff. Oh boy, so what's going on with David Attenborough? Uh-oh. I have a feeling something went down. Nope, he's still alive. Okay, I was like, wait, did David Attenborough die? No, he's still alive, so... Sorry for, like, mechanical keyboard ASMR there for a sec, but I'm like, no idea, he's still alive, so no idea. Because I'm like, wait, he's not dead, so we are good. Yeah. Apparently, they named a horseshoe crab fossil for him a month ago. Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It's nothing like he's not dead, because, like, I think I would have heard if he was dead, because, you know, that's the thing. When big celebrities like that die, you tend to hear about it. Though, I didn't realize the Olympics were happening. Like, I legitimately did not realize the Olympics were happening, because I was so busy with Fiber World. Like, legitimately was like, wait, the Olympics started? So, like, then I went and I watched the opening ceremony on Monday night, because I'd missed it on Friday. So I went and I watched the recording of it, because I'd actually thought about going to the games in Tokyo, because I went to Japan once in 2005 and I adored it. And I would love to visit again. I don't think I'd like to live there. I'm not one of those people that wants to, like, move to Japan and live there. But it would be nice to visit. I'd love to go again in the fall. I went during cherry blossom season in college for a class, for a history class. And I'd like to see it at a different time of year, maybe in the fall instead of the spring. And I'd like to do different parts of the country than I saw. Like I said, notice I already lived there, but when I'd heard the games were going to be in Tokyo, obviously this was well before the pandemic, obviously, because they were announced as the host of the 2020 games in 2013, right? So, you know, it's been known for a while that the games were going to be in Tokyo. And I basically was like, hey, it'd be really fun to go. Now, then obviously, like with the pandemic, I did not even look into going, because I didn't. And so, you know, I had a big interest in these games simply because of my love of Japan. So I really wanted to see the opening ceremonies, because I wanted to see what Japan would do, you know, to talk about, because they'd hosted the games in the 60s, 64, I believe, was also in Tokyo, the 64 Summer Games. And yeah, I just, you know, wanted to see what kind of show they were going to put on. And it was very nice. I liked it. I liked the touches of the traditional and the modern, which is a reflection of how Japan is today. The kabuki actor, you know, juxtaposed against the modern jazz pianist. You know, it was honestly nice to see that. I like how Japan has kept their traditions alive while also embracing modernity, and it's just a thing. I just have a fascination with Japan. I'm not just some anime weeaboo. Like the culture as well. Like I've bought kimono. This is just me personally. Like I own actual kimono. I wear them when I can for reasons, because I think they're just gorgeous, right? Like the dyeing of the silk and the patterning on them, and just the I just think they're pretty. I know I sound like a terrible fangirl. I'm sorry, but anyways. I was so distracted by, in summary, I was so distracted by Fiber World and running the 100 Ravens booth that I forgot the Olympics had started. So, like, that's a thing. Okay, fun fact, the edge, when you wrap it to, like, you know, do the next row, can get caught on the pushers, and then you have to, like, unhook the yarn from the pushers, because that's a thing. Here, I'll see if I can't pull this one really slowly across the row so you can see it. I'll pull it like this so you can see the action. I'm going to go slowly so you can see it here. Going slow doesn't, it's not as smooth going slow, but you can kind of see the action here, how it pushes the stitches over the strand in the hooks to create the next row. So that is row 100 and I keep hitting that. I'm sorry. Creates row 110. So, you know, that's always good. But yeah, it looks like a few people left. The view number is down, but you know, that's cool. Let me know if you have any questions about what I'm doing, what's going on, etc., etc., etc. You know, feel free. I did frame this as like an AMA about yarn and 100 ravens, and I've kind of just been here prattling on for over an hour, so I'll just let you enjoy the needle, the ASMR of this for a few, I guess. Also, casting on this thing is a little tricky and annoying because you can't use a normal, like, cast on of any kind. On this thing, it just does not work, and it's just like, oy vey. But also, I will not be binding this off when I hit the end of this blank because we need to be able to undo it. So I will just leave the edge unbound. I hit the camera again, I'm sorry. And by leaving the edge unbound, it means we can pull it out when we're done dyeing it. And that got flicked closed when it shouldn't have been, because of course it did. Forgot to pull out slack on that row. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is all royalty-free music. It will be attributed in the YouTube video or in the description down on YouTube because I know what order this playlist is in, and yeah, and actually have this one on this specific one on loop repeat. And yeah, I have the list of what's all in this, like extra long track, and yeah. Because, you know, if you don't attribute the music, YouTube likes to put, you know, copyright things on you. Which is very annoying, because I like background music while I work. Like, I like listening to stuff, so, like, I have to go find, like, royalty-free music to get. But hello, looks like another viewer popped in to say hi. Thank you for stopping by. Let me know if you have any questions. Somebody else. Yeah, it says there's people here. It says there's people in chat, but it says I only have 2 viewers. I don't know what's up with that. Like, Twitch what do? Right? Like, I Twitch, what do? But yeah. Yeah, I like talking about yarn, so I figured, you know, I need to do this. Might as well, you know, offer to answer questions about yarn and AHR and dyeing and stuff while I did it. So, for now, if nobody asks any questions, enjoy the ASMR of the knitting machine, which I'm not sure counts as ASMR, really, but it's yeah. Kinda, sorta, maybe. Me talking isn't helping. I probably get that as yeah. And that row count is accurate, by the way. That 124 is accurate. Usually, I have found that between 300 and 400 rows for a blank, so I'm about not quite at the halfway point here. But I tagged this as crocheting even though I am not actively crocheting, because crocheters are perfectly welcome to use our yarn. We will happily sell to you. We have kits that are crochet pattern kits. Like, we like crocheters. Y'all are welcome. We don't care. If you like our yarn, you can buy it. We don't care what it's for. Hell, you can sleep on a bed of it for all we care. If you like it that much. I'm honestly surprised my cat hasn't found her way into the bin to sleep on the yarn, because I have a bin of yarn under the desk here that I was using as examples during Fiber World. Because that's a thing. No, I'm not going to get moving right now, smartwatch. Thank you. I'm kind of busy. Doing a stream, and I'm doing a blank. It's on this side. I realized, because we had these during Fiber World, that I should probably turn on closed captions as an option in OBS to, like, do, like, auto closed captioning. There is a setting in OBS for it. Tools. Captions, experimental. Enable. Audio source mic off. Current system language. Provider. Yeah, okay. We will see. I've turned them on. They might show up in settings in Twitch as an option. Closed caption options. You can try. I've used the Microsoft speech to text to turn them on. It probably won't do the best job with some of the knitting terms specifically, but something's better than nothing, right? I can't see them in OBS. They are only being sent to Twitch. But also, when this goes up on YouTube, you know, you can also use the auto-generated captions as well. But we had live transcribe going during Fiber World, and so, you know, that's a thing. Why is that not updating? That's like not... Oh, there we go. Yeah, see, now... Because, see, I guess I need to not have iTunes minimized to do things I'm playing via iTunes. So the thing here that says what's playing, that's... I guess I need to leave iTunes, like, the window open instead of minimizing it. Because then it just updated when I, you know, clicked on the window. Because that's the thing. But I'm getting there. Just gonna keep chugging along on this. Oh, please don't do that. Please. No, 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 no. Bad, 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 bad. Stop. Good. Thank you. No, 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 no. Thank you. There we go. You have to be careful sometimes because, Also, it starts to pull in because stockinette likes to curl, because that's just how stockinette is. Stockinette curls because it's stockinette. And, yeah, it's curling in a lot. You can see the curl down here in the bottom part of the videos. This means I have to be careful about what I'm doing. The last thing I want is for like 20 stitches to pop off, because I've had that happen. It's very annoying when that happens. Need to twist that knob back down. It's coming loose because that's the knob that holds the tensiony thing in place. So I need the tensioner to stay put, so I needed to tighten that knob. That knob serves double duty. It, like, holds the tensioner in place, and it's what you use to push the slide back and forth. My goodness, these little wispies on the side of my face are driving me slightly bonkers. Also, having the yarn completely loose is not a good idea. I tried that. I tried just letting it like sit there, and it bounces around so much that it actually bounces like off the little hooks. So that's why I put it under slight tension by holding it in my hand, just so it can't jump around. That's pretty much the only reason I put that under just a little bit of tension as it pulls, just so that it doesn't jump. Because jumping, I have found out, is bad. It results in stitches popping off. And the more stitches that pop off, the more in trouble you are. Because, yeah. So. Oh, you, shoot. Where's my thingy? There we go. Thank you. Still faster than hand knitting. Like, normal hand knitting. Still faster. Because machine. And yes, this is all metal. Like, this is all metal except for, like, the wood base. Everything is screwed to. That's it. It's metal and wood. It's a little bit of fancy, schmancy red enamel. This is not a complicated machine at all. But my husband helped me oil it and clean it up and get her running smoothly because she wasn't running smoothly when I pulled her out of the box because she'd been in a box for 40 years. And before the 40 years, she'd been in a box for 20 years. So, but she's a very pretty, like, 50s, 60s style machine. I'm not saying, like, the 50s or 60s were a better place, because they weren't. We are a lot better off now than we were then. But they had style. Right? Like, chrome as a style is pretty fun. And I can get behind that. Can't necessarily get behind some of the values from back then, but I can get behind some of the looks. You know? Like the poofy dresses, like the fun, like, 50s, like, circle dresses. Like, I love those. Don't like 50s values, like 50s fashion. So, you know, that's a thing. I've been watching a lot of historic reconstruction videos of like, oh, we have this antique or vintage garment, but it's too damaged to wear, so we want to make a version to wear ourselves. I'm just like, ooh, yes, give it to me. I'm a terrible sewer. I am not good at sewing. I have 2 sewing machines. Terrible at sewing. Why do I have 2? Because buying a working antique Singer treadle from 1919 for $25 is too good to pass up. That's why I own 2 machines. Because it was $25 for a working Singer treadle still in the cabinet. Like, I could not walk away from that price. I had to call up. I keep hitting that. I am so sorry. I'm sorry for the jiggling. I apologize. I had to call up family to borrow an SUV to get it out of the antique shop because it was not going to fit in my sedan. But it was too good an opportunity to pass up. Because it was $25. Cost me over $100 to get it fixed up, or well, cleaned up. It was working. It was working when I bought it. I will say that. But the drive band had snapped due to age because it's a leather drive band. It needed to be cleaned. It needed to be oiled. It basically just needed to be serviced. It was working, but it needed to be serviced. So, cost me over $100 to get it serviced. But, you know, I bought it, and then I waited a few months, and then I got it serviced, and then I brought it back home, and I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, and it's been like 5 years. So, that's the thing. But I have a modern, like, Janome that I use when I do so, because, yeah. Though I need to order better hand sewing needles to do, like, final fiddly little details, like buttonholes and stuff, and, yeah. There we go. 155. I'm getting there on rows. You can see ball's getting smaller. This is the full ball for like a full cake. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Of course, the ball goes faster once it gets smaller because the, you know, wraps aren't as large on it. So, you know, that's a thing. Did I remove that one off of this playlist? I'm just checking. There's one I'd rated. Don't want that. I want remove from playlist. Remove song. Yeah, there's a couple on here that like I didn't want in the playlist because, yeah, I'd marked them as 1 star for reasons that I could remember what they were, so there we go. There we go. They have been marked, or removed from the playlist because I don't want swears. I try not to swear in these streams, and I don't want swears in the background of the stream, like in the music, so I was like, oh crap, I need to remove a couple of these because there's a lot of F-bombs going on here. That's not what I want, because the stream is supposed to be appropriate for all ages, so I try not to stream. Try not to swear. I mean, I might say, like, shit or something once in a while, like, especially if, like just now, shit, I dropped the ball, right? Like I might let one slip occasionally, but I don't want it to be, like, a big normal thing. Right? So, I try. There we go. But dropping the ball of yarn does not help. There we go. Put my leg back up. You guys got a peek under my desk there, which is not the neatest place to be right now. Because again, Fiber Road over the weekend. But this is being recorded. It'll go on YouTube. You know, it'll be a thing. Just gonna check my phone real quick because I thought it went off. No, just notifications because, yeah. Because notifications, right? Because of course. Make sure this is good. It's good? Yeah, okay. Hopefully it's good. Should be good. Fingers crossed. Hey, we're good. Awesome. So I might actually finish this blank on stream. I was planning to stream until about noon, so we'll see how far another 45 minutes gets me, and then, you know. I don't think I need to take a break. Like, sometimes in the winding streams, I need to take breaks, but because I'm not standing, it's actually not too bad, so I think I'll just go straight through until noon, and this impromptu 2-hour, 2.25-hour stream will be done. But yeah, I was like, oh, haven't streamed in a while. Have this blank to make. The machine fits on my desk, so let me just figure out if I can get this camera to work, and we're good to go. And hey, I got the camera to work, so, you know. Because my old webcam is kind of, like, dying. Kind of dying. Because it's, like, 7 years old, and I beat the crap out of it, so. I'm like, hey, I have this old phone that works fine. If it's plugged in, because the battery's shot. That's why I got my current phone, because the battery was shot. But it ended up being easier to get a new phone because reasons. I know the lighting is kind of bright for this, but I want you guys to be able to see the you know, how the thing works. So. Whoop, and I had one not go right here. I had this one. So what I'm going to do is just gently pull it up and over and do the stitch. There we go. That's what happened over here before, was I had 3 pop off. This time it was only 1, so it was a much quicker fix because it was just 1 stitch instead of 3. Come on. I feel like I should have painted my nails or something fun for this, but whatever. Oh, wait, I need slack. I need slack. Slack is good. I got myself in there. Because, like, see, as long as I haven't actually started, as long as these pushers, right, haven't started interacting with the piece, I can still, like, stop and adjust something. It's once the pushers are interacting with it that I can't really stop. You can't really undo what you've already done in this. Like, you can't, like, tink back on this machine. With the slider, it just doesn't really work. Because the pushers are going to push the current stitches off, and if there's nothing there to catch them, the entire piece can just pop off. Ask me how I know. Might have discovered that the hard way. I can pause in the middle, like with the slider, but I can't, like, go back. I prefer not to pause in the middle with the slider because it does put a lot of strain on the yarn. But if I have to, I can. like I said, this is not a modern machine. This machine is nearly as old as my mother, who is in her 60s. Sorry, Mom, but you are. I'm 33. I have half your age right now. People can do math. Yeah. So, you know, it's not the most modern machine. It's not the best machine, but it gets the job done. And that's kind of what matters right now, is that it gets the job done. And it definitely gives you guys something different and interesting to look at because, like, you know, how many people are using vintage knitting machines on Twitch or on YouTube, right? Like, it's something different. It's just something interesting, and I thought it would just be of interest to people, and I might, if I finish this blank before noon, which I'm kind of on track to do, I'm already at 174 rows here, I might start the next one so you guys can see how casting on works. Like I said, I'm not going to properly bind off. I've almost hit the floor with the blank. Like I said, I'm not going to properly bind this off because this is a blank for dyeing purposes. So we are going to be, at the end of the day, unknitting it. So I have to do a proper cast on, air quotes proper, in order to get it started. But it's a very loose cast on. And it's just going to come out. So instead of binding off, I just do a row across like normal, and that's that. But yeah. I think this one's probably going to be closer to 300 rows because I am getting pretty low on the ball, but, you know, that's fine. It doesn't, like, the variation in rows isn't a big deal because we just adjust how we dye it based on, like, how long it stretches out once we get it on the table in the studio, so it's not too bad. So, you know, it's not the end of the world. But it's a little shorter or a little squatter or whatever. And I've tried to keep the tension loose. Like I said, I'm only tensioning the yarn, like, when I'm holding it like this here, like in my right hand over here. I'm only tensioning it like this just to keep it from, like, kind of flailing around as I go across the row. I'm not stopping the yarn from being pulled through my fingers. It's just like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's a just in case thing. You know, it's a just in case to make sure it doesn't fly around and just completely pop off. Because that's a thing that can happen. And you can do a row without closing all of the hooks first. I prefer to because it's a safety measure. And I'm not really that experienced with this thing yet, so yeah. But yeah, if you ever need good royalty-free music, Magic Records has a lot of stuff. I downloaded a lot of their, like, dance, EDM, kind of more upbeat, high-tempo stuff, because that's what I enjoy, but, you know, they have a lot of stuff, and as long as you just give attribution in your description on YouTube when you upload the video, they are happy. And I'm like, okay, cool. Sounds good to me. That row's a little tighter because I didn't have enough slack, and I realized, like, you know, halfway across. But it would be very easy to do something like a sweater on this machine, especially because a pullover sweater is only 4 rectangles that you sew together. A cardigan's only 5 rectangles that you sew together, really, at the end of the day. So you could definitely do, like, sweaters and even hats, because you could just, because there are ways to increase and decrease. I am not using them because blanks just need to be straight, but there are ways to increase and decrease. So you could do things like hats where you do the crown decreases, like when you knit a half flat, and then seam it. You can do stuff like that. Like I said, there's a book on how to do socks on this thing, which seems really fun, which would be really interesting to do, and definitely very interesting. So I'll probably figure out that at some point, but that'll be something else. Nope, wait. No. Some of these hooks are not open. Keep forgetting where I put this thing down. That hook's not open. Just making sure they're all open now. Yeah, okay, we're good. Wait. There we go. And hey, the blank has hit the floor. I need to switch which leg is curled up though, because I am getting a little stiff. So I am going to take a moment here to just swap which leg is bent and which leg is not bent for comfort's sake. But the blank has in fact hit the floor. So actually I can take these clips off now, which yes, they're little cute animal clips because my husband and I are those people that buy cute little animal clips for our chip bags because they're just little cute. I think we got them at like Market Basket or whatever, but yeah, see? So now you can see the blank. And of course I get it caught on the hooks. Crap, come off. Thank you. No, bad. Let's see, you can see the blank now here. It's not even. Rows aren't great, but you know what? It's what we need to dye. It's basically just a strip of fabric that we are going to dye. And then it's going to get unknit and turned into a cake. So it's literally supposed to be see-through. It's supposed to have a stupid amount of stretch. It's supposed to be very loose and able to come out very easily. So, but it has now in fact hit the floor. Granted, my desk is only, normal, whatever normal desk height is. I don't know how many inches that is, but normal desk height is where my desk is at right now. So this is just a normal height desk. I just realized I should actually go through the bin of yarn at my feet and make sure that all of the colors and skeins and stuff that are in there I have photos of for the website, because that would be a good thing. Please open the hook. Thank you. Not you. Thank you, this hook. There we go. Because I'm trying to get photos of every color on every base for the website, which, speaking of, I need to go and add stuff to the website so that somebody can order something because reasons. Because I just realized something, and yeah, we don't have all of our bases available for custom order, so we need that on the website. I need to do that. That's probably what I'm going to do today. Who is texting me? And Zoe's back. And Zoe is back. Fun. Hi, Zoe. Yes, I can hear you meowing. I don't know if the people on the internet can hear you, though. You're pretty loud, though. What? You can come up. Zoe. No, don't pull the green screen with you. Where are you going, cat? Yeah, you're over there. No, that's not. Zoe, leave that cord alone. Zoe. Hey. Cat. What? Zoe. What? You have little legs. What are you doing? What? Meow. What? Zoe. No, you're going to walk off? No, of course, she walked off to the other side of the desk. Because of course she did. Because she's a cat. What do you expect, right? She's a cat. What, Zoe? Yes, hi. What? You want to come up? Come on. Yeah, oh, yeah, just shove your claws into my thigh. Good job. It's a good thing I'm wearing jeans. And we just trimmed your claws recently. Like, this is a problem. You're in the way. You are in the way. Girl. So. No, I don't want you to be in my lap. I don't want her in my lap. I'm trying to do this. Having her in my lap is not conducive to doing this. She's gonna settle in, though, because of course she is. Because of course she is. Because she's a cat. I should have shut the door to this room. Probably should have shut the door to this room. Oh well, is what it is. At least she's not, like, digging her claws into me because she doesn't like the noise, so that's something. She's not the biggest fan of the noise, but she's not, like, running, which is nice, because that would be painful if she ran. Yes, I know, I'm doing a weird thing and it's making weird noises, and you're in my lap. I did not make you be in my lap. You're the one that chose to claw your way up here. Yeah. See? She's right here. She is... Yeah. Yes, you. I'm talking about you. Yes, I'm complaining about you to people on the internet. You're cute, but you're trouble. You have your cushion over here. You want to go on your cushion? So, you want to go on your cushion? No? I have a filing cabinet off the side of my desk here that I put a cushion on it as a way to, like, give her a space to be while I'm at the computer that's not on me. Does she use it? About 50% of the time. Usually when it wouldn't matter if she was on my lap or not. And she never uses it when I don't want her on my lap. Because of course she doesn't. Because she's a cat. I mean, I love her though. She's cute and adorable, and she's fuzzy, and she purrs really loudly. But at the same time, it's just like, trying to do a job here, cat. And she's not making it easy. And I guarantee you, if I actually put the ball down in my lap, she would be trying to attack it. So that's why I'm not doing that. Because that's a thing. Like, see, she just tried to attack the yarn, which is lovely. No, Zoe, this is not a toy for kitties. No, not a kitty toy. No. And I just got a text from my mom. It's always good. Why is she messaging me? They agree, need to agree. I have sick family many states away, and so when I saw the text, I was like, I just wanted to check, but it was not. I did respond to that earlier text because that was important about family, and yeah, it's been... There's a reason I have this shirt now and not just the, like, 2021 star do not recommend. There's a reason now I have a 2021 half star shirt. I think my ears are still irritated from the from wearing these headphones for like 5 days straight. I don't normally wear these like 12, 16 hours a day. I normally don't. Normally I wear them like a couple hours each day, not, you know, not insanely long periods of time like I was for Fiber World over the weekend. So that was fun. I think my ears are still a little irritated. Just getting some slack off the ball off camera there. Because having it sit behind where she is good, because then she's not, like, seeing the ball itself and trying to attack it. She is watching it, though. She is watching this. As long as she doesn't attack it, you know, we're okay. Yeah, get your tail out of there. Don't want your tail to get caught. I don't know if Kansas can leave a voicemail. I do not know anybody in Kansas. Kansas can leave a voicemail. God. Come on. Yeah, Mom, okay. I will look at what my mom sent me later. Not right now. Like, Mom, I'm doing a stream on Twitch. Need some more slack. Here, I'm just being, extra careful with my slack. I've broken 200 rows. Like I said, I started today's stream with 34, so you can see how quickly this can build. Like, it really can move fast. $211. This will be $212. So I'm getting an odd number row when I go that way and an even number row when I go that way. Because that's the way I cast on. As a lefty, I started on the left and I cast on this way, so row 1 was going that way. But that's just, And you work on the wrong side of the fabric with this thing. Like, you're on the wrong side of the fabric, so, like, if you're familiar with how stockinette is, you're on the purl side of stockinette. You're not on the knit side of stockinette. Just because of the way stitches are constructed. Like, if you think about how a knit stitch is versus a purl stitch, right? And just the movement of how you create a knit stitch, it makes sense that it would be effectively backwards. But it took me a little bit to wrap my head around that, to understand that, oh yes, it actually is legitimately, like, I'm working on this from behind. So, But some of the little hooks won't stay closed, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. I think I'm finally at least mentally recovered from Fiber World, which is nice. I was very, very tired and out of it the last couple of days. Oh, I'm gonna need to file. Okay, so the reason I'm stopping to file my nail right now is because catching a nail on yarn, especially doing something like this, is bad. I could rip stitches off of the hooks, and getting them back on the hooks is really bad. So that's why I'm literally stopping and taking the time to do this. This is not a vain thing. This is literally a make sure this thing keeps working properly thing. That's why I stopped doing that. I'm not just being vain, like, oh, I have a catch in my nail. It's like, no, I need to not destroy the thing I'm working on. Yeah, Zoe, I keep moving. I'm not sitting still. Yeah, why'd you stick your head through there? That's the arm of the chair, Zoe. Could you stop? Zoe, what are you doing? You silly, silly girl. She is a silly kitty. She's a very silly kitty. She's a very, very silly kitty. Again, getting more slack. Yeah, I know. It's moving. No, you gonna go? Okay, fine, bye. Cool. That makes my life a lot easier to have her not in my lap. It's very hard for her to settle, like, sometimes. She just won't, like, settle down sometimes, and it's like, come on, please, cat. But nope. If she wanders off downstairs, she'll probably go to sleep on the bed, which is fine by me. Means she'll stop screaming at me. And it means I can have the ball of yarn, like, in my lap again instead of off to the side, because it's easier when it's in my lap. This is going to take me a hot minute to fix. And this is what I get for not paying attention, for getting complacent, for, being a dummy dum-dum. So what I want to just try to do is just try to pick up these stitches on the straight. If I can pick them up on the straight, I can fix it. get them on the straight, I can fix it. Because if by picking them up on the straight, I can then get them back onto the hooks. If I can get them back onto the hooks, I can fix this. If I can't, I'm gonna have to go get the other straight that goes with this that's about roughly the same size. I take the entire thing off, which I don't want to do because that is a pain in the butt. Tuchus, whatever. I'll say tuchus. Pain in the tuchus. Couple of stitches dropping down, that is fine. But because this is getting so curled as a stockinette piece that it's starting to be a problem. Okay, this one just has to come off because I can't. So I'm just gonna lose that. But that's on purpose. Don't at me. That is very much on purpose because by doing that, it's easier for me to save the rest of these stitches. Shoot. Okay. That's not too bad. Come on. Come on. Come on. Don't want to drop too many of the previous row. Shoot. Come on. Come on. Okay, I'll take it. Okay, I will take that. I will take that. Now, I need this. And I need to open these. I need to open all of these. I want to keep the ones over here shut, actually, because that'll help hold the stitches on. Because they'll be on the hooks and they'll be closed in the loop of the hook, so they'll be less likely to pop off over here. So I do not want to lose the entire row. Losing the entire row is the very last thing I want right now. Very, very last thing I want right now is to lose the entire row off of this thing. So, put that there. Now, what I'm going to do is make sure all of the ones over here, on the other hand, are open. So, I'm going to do that. And now I'm just going to slowly, with my fingers, right, and this needle, kind of, sort of, come on. Try to get each one back. I'm going to need to use this too, to get each of these back on its proper hook. This is going to take me a hot minute because, you know, and at this point, if they're twisted, I don't really care because it doesn't really matter anyways in the dyeing process if the stitches are twisted. Doesn't matter for this thing either if the stitches are twisted, but, you know, if I can keep them untwisted, that's good. If I can't keep them untwisted. But see, that just came back off again. It's like, could you not, please? Come on. So this is, you know, it's very, very tricky to do something like this. And it's very... See, I got cocky. I stopped paying attention to what I was doing, and that is totally my downfall here. Like, every time you have a moment of inattention, something can go very seriously wrong, and usually ends up being a pain in the tuchus. That's twisted. So now you can see, like, you know what? I wonder if I can zoom in over here. At what I'm doing so you can see. Come on. Nope, that's not what I wanted. That was bad focus. There we go. There we go. That's nice and in focus. Cool. So now I can go back to putting these back on the hooks. Come on. Oh shoot, that one just came off. Hey, no, you behave, you behave, you behave. No, bad. Bad, Stitch. You're not behaving. Come on, Stitch. Right, you can see how I'm being very careful as I go to make sure I don't miss a hook so that I know that I in fact have all of them. And then I'll have to manually by hand finish this row, and then I can move on to the next one. So I'm going to be on 218 here for a while. Not that you can see the number 218 anymore, but yeah, I'm going to be on row 218 for a long time here. There we go. Okay, cool. Now this stitch. go. Okay. I'll get there. You know, it's just going to take time to fix, and I just have to be careful, and I just need to, you know, it's fiddly. That's what this is. It's fiddly when something goes wrong. And it can get very annoying, but at the same time, like, if you just have patience, it's not too bad at the end of the day. And I'm trying, even though it doesn't really matter if they're twisted, it gives me more slack for fixing them if they're not twisted. So I'm trying not to twist them, putting them back on these needles. Because, of course, I had to have, you know, literally half of the row. It's literally at, like, stitch 40 here, because these brass ones are every 10 stitches. I'm literally, like, half of the row came off. And I have 80 stitches across, and literally 40 of them came off. So, you know, one can try, but I'm just trying to take it easy and just make sure that everything gets back on the right hook so that I can keep doing this correctly because reasons. And that's twisted because of course it is, so that one goes on like that. I did zoom in so you guys could see what I was doing a little bit better. I know my left hand is in the way, but unfortunately, like, I picked up from going left to right because, yeah, and I'm a lefty, which doesn't help. I'm sorry. But the joys of an antique, well, I'll say vintage. It's not really an antique. It's not really old enough, but it's definitely vintage because it's, like, you know, over 60 years old. The joys of a vintage knitting machine is it's very, very fiddly at times. Especially when you are trying to fix things. Is that twisted? No, it is not. Okay, you go on. No, 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 no. Come on. I split the yarn, which is not helping. There we go. And I'm just pulling it a little bit down here because I'm going to have to go in and pick up and, like, fix some stitches from the row below so I don't have any, like, slipped stitches. Oh, shoot. Come back here. Come back here. No, 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 no. Bed. Come here. Come here. Come here. Thank you. Okay, cool. You can just go on like that. I don't know if this is the way you're supposed to fix it. This is just the way I've figured out attempting to use this thing. Like, it's not... Like, I've just... This is trial and error. This is legitimately, like... The instructions that came with this thing are so pithy that, like, oh, and there was, of course, just as I paused, this song swore, which is not what I wanted, so I'm actually just going to skip to the next track and remove this one from the playlist. I'm just going to pause, and I'm going to remove this from the playlist because, remove from playlist, remove song. I'm just going to click play on the next one because I did not want the swears in there. Sorry, y'all. So, what did I just do with my stick? What did I just do with my stick? I just had my stick. There it is, next to my keyboard. This thing is useful. This came with it. It's a double end. It's got a crochet hook on one hand and a pointy bit on the other end. Yes, pointy bit. That is a technical term because I do not know what it's actually called. But the pointy bit is very useful for doing this. So I am going to have to fix the ones that, like, dropped down a row, because I did have that happen a bit. Like, as I was picking up stitches, like, they'd slip out, just because it's very loose. So it's very easy for it to be flexible and to wiggle about and such, but I can just get everything back on the hooks, it's easier, because, like, when stuff's falling off the hooks, it is not a fun time at all. Come on. Only a few more. Okay, so everything is now back on the machine. I've picked up all of the stitches that dropped, but now you can see this is in the middle of the row. It's not a good place for it to be, but what I need to do first is fix some stitches that dropped down to the previous row before I can fix that. So I got, those are all good, and then I have one over here that fell down, that dropped a row. Come on. There we go. This one dropped a row as well. No, I don't want you hooked on that. Thank you. Alright, that one dropped a row. This one dropped a row. These two together dropped a row. And the second to last stitch dropped a row. Okay, so now I'm going to work my way back across. fixing these as I go. So by leaving the hooks open deliberately, it makes sure that that stitch won't come off as easily because there's a hook it has to go, you know, basically has to defy gravity to pop off right now. So by doing that, it helps. And obviously there's going to be some tension issues with some of this, but come on, can I please get the thing? Thank you. There we go. Right, so there's going to be some tension issues. Like there's definitely like some wonky tension here. So if I just pull up on these gently and I can work that slack across to the stitches that need it. Now I'm not going to be super picky about this. I'm just going to be picky enough that like I know the slide will go all the way back. Kind of picky, right? So that's not super picky. It's just, you know, just picky enough, really. This is basically an exercise in being just fiddly enough to make it work and not, you know, losing everything in the process. I know this doesn't make for the best, most entertaining stuff right now, but like I'm trying to concentrate and get this done and just fix so that it's not miserable. There we go. There we go. By pressing down between them, I can also help with the tension on the thing. Okay. I just have these 2 stitches here that dropped down from the previous row. Also putting tension on it helps too, because like I'm pulling on the fabric. There we go. Okay, cool. So now I have the strand in the middle here. I need to get it across. So basically I need to have these all go back. This go across from here. But obviously I can't bring the slide back, right? I can't. Not without messing up the good half of the row. So what I'm going to do is basically just do these stitches one by one manually, which is a pain. It's going to take me a little bit to do this, but don't really have another option for saving this row without taking it all off, putting it on like regular straight knitting needles, and then putting it all back on, which takes longer than doing it like this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to hold down the fabric, and I'm just going to slowly just do each stitch. I guess this is going to take a while, but it'll get done, and then it won't be. I'm just going to wrap it around my finger to have a little bit of tension and control over it here. Because, you know, I need a little bit of control over it. Not too much, but just enough. Again, this is all a study in just enough. This is all a study in just enough to get it to work, essentially. Just going to wrap it like I normally wrap the yarn around my hand because that's how I'm comfortable holding it. Right, so putting tension on it with my hand, and then I'm pulling down with my right on the fabric. I'm offering tension with my hand now with the yarn wrapped around my fingers with my right hand. So I'm tensioning with my right and actually pulling the stitch up and over with my left here. And this is how I'm working my way across this row. And this is how you'd work on like one of those manual looms. You'd see it like the craft store, like the little kits for kids, like the hat loom and stuff. This is exactly how you would work that, except on a much finer scale because I'm using a light fingering weight yarn. And obviously there's a lot more stitches here than like for those kids' toys. But it's exactly the same thing. You know, you pull the stitches over one by one. In that case, those looms are usually all circular. But that's okay. This one's flat. I can't do in the round with this, but that's okay. I thought about getting like one of the old-timey sock machines, like that can do like good socks, like the good circular knitting machines. But they're expensive. They're like hundreds of dollars. This one, because Grandma, you know, rest her soul. What is it? Shoot, I can't think of the phrase right now that is in my brain. Because she bought this decades ago, you know, I now have the chance to use it and enjoy it. And it's, you know, I know that she would enjoy seeing me use her machine. Even if I'm using it for work, I'm not using it for fun. But she would still like that it's getting used. She was always so proud that I'd picked up this and that I'd you know, taken up crafting and yarn crafting and all those kinds of skills that had kind of become a lost art in the 80s and 90s a little bit, and are now seen a resurgence in the 21st century. So, nope, nobody said anything in chat. Cool. I'm like, I have not looked at chat in like 15 minutes. Has anybody said anything? No. Good. Okay. Cool. Only got like one viewer right now, but I hope you're like enjoying me trying to fix, you know, this awful mistake here. But I'm getting there. I only have about 11 stitches left. Yeah, because I can count. So, you know, getting there. And by putting tension on it myself, you know, it's not the best view you can see of what I'm doing, but you can see that I've manually been pulling each of the stitches up and over as I go to create the row that half came off. So that's what I am doing. Come on. Come on. Thank you. I'm almost there. Just a few more. Just a few more. Then I will be good. Two more. One more. And fixed. Awesome. Now I can just push the whole thing back. And because I was putting tension on it as I went, I have enough slack in the stitches to do the thing. Let me zoom back out here. There we go. So I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. There we go. So you can see the thing again. Now, on to the next row. On to 219. Finally. That took me a while. So yeah, I'm not going to get this done this stream. But I'll get this done in the next, you know, hour or so. And see, because I took the time to make sure I had the good tension, that row just went nice and smoothly. It was just a moment of inattention on my part that caused it to pop off. But I fixed it, and you know, you learn a lot when you do something like that. Definitely one of those learn as you go things. And I'm remembering to pull out slack, which is also useful. I really need to go through this playlist and double check what has swears and what doesn't, because I'm like, ah. But, you know, hopefully it's not too loud in the background. Because it is just supposed to be background music so that, like, I have something to listen to, but obviously, like, I can't be playing copyrighted music for y'all, so. And I don't like silence. Like, I feel like there should be something, you know, so. Whoop, I accidentally pulled those a little tight. That'll be alright. Okay, I just pulled them out a little bit this end. But there are places to get copyright-free music, so. You know, or stuff that you can use as long as you use attribution, which is what I'm doing, so. Frig. And I just lost some on this side, but again, it's only a few. It's not a ton, but I need to open up these hooks. Tell I'm getting tired when this starts happening, so I'm going to fix this, and then I think I'm going to call it for the stream, because yeah. I've just had it pop off twice on me now, you know? A few rows next to each other. One of these dropped down a lot of rows, but that's okay, I can fix that. Just need to pick up the stitches in the previous row without dropping too many down. Come on. Oh, that one just came out as I got to it, dang it. Okay, I got them all. So now I just gotta put them all back on the thing. Which there's far less stitches this time, so it's a little easier. Like only like 15 came off instead of, 40. So this will go a lot faster because, yeah. Come on, go on the right way, thank you. Okay, so there we go, got that back. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this, and then I'm just going to call it for today because, y'all, I'm tired. Like, I can tell because I am starting to make mistakes like this, so I'm going to need a break, and yeah. And a 2-hour stream is still pretty good. That's pretty good, right? I mean, I know it's not a time of day when a lot of people could watch, but it's... something's better than nothing, right? So this one went down 2 rows, so I have to do 1 strand at a time here. 1 strand at a time. Then, there we go. Cool. This one also fell down another row. So I still have the big loose strand that is the current row, that is row 226, but I need to get the ones that fell down farther than that first before I can tackle that. So that is what I am doing. There's not going to be as much slack because it pulled, right? Because as these stitches were being worked across the row, they got pulled. I shouldn't have pushed them back like that because I'm a dummy-dumb, but... So these also fell down from the previous row, these 3 stitches here. So I can work it across if I have to. No, not 3, only 2. Okay. I can work it across if I have to, but like it's pain. But I might have to because I might not have the extra slack to do the current row. I might have to work some across from this end over here. But we shall see. We shall see how far I can get. Just put them all up on the hooks. Come on. There we go. Okay. So now I just do these 1 by 1. Just keeping tension on it. I know this looks like a very awkward grip with my right hand, but like I don't want to come from the backside to grip because I don't want to pull the stitches that are still on off, right? So that's a thing. I'm just using the pointy end this time because it gives me less trouble than the crochet hook end. It still gives me trouble. I just don't get as much trouble as the... Yeah, I'm going to need some slack because, oh boy, these are tight, 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 tight over there. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to pull up a big loop and I'm just going to work this big loop all the way across without dropping these stitches, if I can. Thank you, please. Come on. Okay, and this song has swears too, so I'm going to have to change this. Come on, you stupid... Come on, you stupid thing. Come on. Let me pause the music so I can change the song because... Remove from playlist. Because I do not want to remove... Yes, remove song. Thank you. Let's see if this one has swears. Because, that's a thing. But anyways, I'm going to try to move this big loop of yarn across. So what I'm going to do is, instead of like letting it just fly free, I'm going to use my fingers here to kind of guide it back down to... There we go. Because I still want, these stitches to have some slack to them. And by keeping my finger here, it's helping me to... It's going to take me a while to work these across, by the way. Like, this is just going to take a hot minute. It's too bad I can't, like, watch a YouTube video with y'all and laugh about something or whatever because, it just... Yeah. That doesn't work. Can't do that. Because copyrighted material. Because reasons, right? So... How do people do it? Like, I swear. I feel like I'm not the most entertaining person to watch sometimes. Especially when I'm doing something like this, but this is a necessary evil of this machine. But yeah, I can tell I'm getting tired, so like I need to take a break. So once I am done fixing this row, then you know, I'm gonna stop. But I figured y'all can watch me try to fix this. And I'll probably do one row just to make sure that, like, it's good. You know, I'll do one row across, or maybe two, just to make sure that, like, I'm not messing it up or anything. And yeah. Also just trying to keep this from flopping about too much. And I am pulling at the other stitches as I go. Like I said, I don't know if you can see. You can't really see. I'm holding them underneath with my right hand so that they don't come flying off when they're loose. Because that's a thing as well. They can come totally flying off. And yes, it is very tedious to work extra slack across the row to the other end. Because it's hard to tink on this machine. And I could have just tinked, but it's harder to tink than it is. Honestly, this is legitimately like a thing. It's harder to tink on this machine than it is to work excess across the row. I'm dead serious. Like, normally, when you mess up a row like this in, like, hand knitting, like, on needles, you just tink back. You just, nope, screw it, out comes the row, you tink back. But not on this. Not on this. It is easier to move the slack across than it is to... And, of course, this one just fell off, because of course it did, because this loop is gigantic and I'm trying to move it, and it's not cooperating, and... Come on, you piece of... Come on, come on, come on, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing, thank you. There we go, thank you. And please don't get caught over there. Oh my goodness, stop, 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 thank you. Oh dear, this is, yeah. No, I know this seems fiddly. It's even more fiddly to tink back. Like, I'm serious. Yeah. So I am just working this excess across the row, because that's the easier option. I know it seems silly, but that is what it is. Anybody has any questions for me while I do this, because obviously this is not what I was expecting to be doing in this stream, you know, feel free. Like, about our yarn, what I'm doing, what this thing in front of me is, what, like, you know, I don't know. Just, yeah, feel free. Try not to lose stitch. Says I got a couple of watchers. Hello, welcome, thank you for stopping by, checking me out. I know this is very odd. What I'm doing. It's not normal. It does look weird. It's a knitting machine. Those are not the most common things in the world. So encountering one is not common. But I'm just trying to... Okay, now see, I've gotten far enough across the road that, like, my hand doesn't, like, fit. Like, I can't hold it all because my hand's not that wide. So I'm just gonna use my fingers like this to keep the loops from hopping off, because my finger's in the way, the loop can't hop off. Mwahaha. And I can still reach under and pull it, but I can't, like, keep, like, constant pressure on it because it's just starting to get to my hand. I'm, like, halfway there. I don't know, this is probably way more slack than I need, so those stitches are going to be super, super loose, but better safe than sorry, right? I don't have to work slack across more than once, basically. So. And if some of the other stitches over here end up bigger along the way, then that's fine. That's totally fine. No, 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 don't come off, don't come off, don't come off. You behave. Come on. Come on, thank you. Thank you. Please do the thing. Thank you. I got caught on the pushers there for a sec. I can do it. I got it. I punched it up in my hand underneath because this is just, yeah. That way I can put tension on it from the underside to pull it down. So. And I deliberately, like, let some of these loops become bigger because, yeah, I don't need quite that much slack, but if I need it, like, it's closer to the edge here, That makes sense. I know what I'm doing looks absolutely weird and bonkers and not knitting and not crochet, and it looks very strange. I know, it's definitely a thing. This is definitely like an interesting way to do this. And like I said, you're effectively backwards, like we're coming at this from the purl side, so it's a thing. It's a time. It's interesting. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just, you know, it's a vintage thing that works a little differently than you know, you would think it would, kind of thing. So. In this case, I need to use that hand to do that because reasons. So yeah, I'm starting to get close here, so that's good. It means I will have this slack where I need it. I need to pull a little bit more out. Like, there we go. That was getting a little more. This is just getting a little big, so I can just pull it to... Not quite that much, thank you. What I can do is now, because I'm close enough to here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it like this, right? I'm just going to pull the strand. I'm just going to pull it so that I get some slack here. But not too much slack, you know? I don't want too much slack. Just kind of jiggering here, because, yeah. Now, there we go. Now, I have the slack I need to do these stitches. In fact, I might have a smidge too much slack, but that's okay. I'd rather have too much than too little, because too much is easier to fix than too little. Trust me, it is. I know that sounds strange, but it is definitely an easier thing to deal with than too little. You saw me dealing with too little, so, you know, that's a thing. So now what I'm going to do is push all of these back, push all of these forward like that, and now I'm just going to put tension on it from below. I'm just going to do the thing. See, now I have the slack to do the stitches, to make it work. Come on. Thank you. Because see, now that slack is there. And actually, I have probably just enough slack. So I probably pulled out just the right amount, believe it or not. Even though it looked like I had this huge loop. Like, see how that's just disappeared into the knitting? Yeah. So, looks like I had just enough. Looks like I had just enough. I'm going to have to pull a little bit from farther over, a little bit here, but basically I can just push down in between the needles to move the little bit of slack over now, and that works just fine if I keep tension on all of these by pulling downward with my right hand. There we go. That's probably good enough to get the next row done. They're just loose enough. Everything's just loose enough. Cool. Oh, okay, that was a time. And I just pulled the first stitch off over here. That's fine, that's easy to fix. It's one stitch. Just pop it. Okay, that was, no, that's like 6 squares. Thank you. No, can I not do that? Renegades, where is it? Where's it? Thank you. Let's remove this one from playlist as well. Thank you. Because, you know, I'm going to click shuffle all and hope I don't get another one with a ton of squares in it, because that's a thing. Trying to keep this friendly. Like, it's not, you know, marked mature. I mean, yeah, it's a swear. It's not like it's, you know, insane. But it's still like, come on, I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to behave. And not drop 8 bajillion swears every time something goes wrong with this thing. So there we go. Ta-da! Okay, now it's fixed. Now I just need to make sure all of the hooks are open across the row. Just to make sure they're all open. Now, let's see if I can get a row without it popping off. Because that's very annoying. You've just watched me fix it twice. It's Very annoying to have to fix it over and over and over again. Very annoying. And I went slow this time so I could keep an eye on it. I'm just going to do a few to make sure this is stable and it's not going to do that on me again because... I also need lunch. Like, yeah, it's 12:15 now. So, you know, that's a thing. Alright, I'll be at 2:30 if I do the next row, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do... Or should I go to 2:34 and make it an even 200 rows done today? I think I'll do that, because I started this stream at 34 rows, so... I'll go to 2:34 and make it an even 200 rows. Done on stream. So 4 more rows. I'll make it an even 200 rows done on stream. Because why not, right? Like, you know? Why not? Don't need it on that one. Don't need it on that hook, thank you. That hook can be close. I try to keep the ones, like, just either side of it close so that I know, like, not to use those. Or not to put the yarn through those. And it does look different in the fabric. You can see the line here of my super loose stitches from where I work stuff across and where it's tight over here. But I had enough slack that, you know, it was okay. And that's what matters. Because, like, again, it's going to get dyed and it's going to get unknit, so it doesn't have to stay together well. It just needs to be good enough for us to dye. Alright, one more row and then I'm calling it because that'll be an even 200 rows on stream. And I think that's a good stream. Will have been about 2.5 hours too, so, you know, that's a thing. That's good. Alright. I'm going to call it. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. This will be up on YouTube afterwards. Feel free to rewatch it here on Twitch. Feel free to give us a follow. Find us on social media. Buy from us. What's my custom command? I did a custom command for Stream Elements for the bot. What is it? Oh, our website. You can check out our website at 100ravens.com. Check us out on social, which is above my head anyways, but you know, there's the command anyways. There's all of our stuff on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as 100 Ravens, all one word. We are on YouTube as A_100 Ravens. We are here on Twitch as 100 Ravens. And yeah, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. And I will catch y'all next time. Bye.
Moving. Is that Tokyo grind? Is that Tokyo grind?